upper esophageal sphincter. When you swallow, the esophagus dilates and lets the food in, and then it convulses in smooth muscle contraction waves called peristaltic waves. And that pushes the food down to the stomach. Okay? So the esophagus is a muscular tube that usually is collapsed. And unless you swallow, it stays collapsed. When you swallow, it dilates and then it pushes on the food and sends it down. In order for food to go into the esophagus, the upper and lower sphincters have to open to let the food pass through. Then, once the food gets down into the stomach, the sphincters close and trap the food down in the stomach. So if you want an experiment, you can go home and you can try to drink a milkshake standing on your head. Okay? But don't tell anybody that I told you to do that. Okay? So you go home and try that out. You swallow, and the food will go down your esophagus into the stomach, even though you're upside down. It's not a gravity-dependent process. It's muscular. Okay? And then we keep the food in the stomach because the cardiac sphincter is closed. Okay? Anybody ever have acid reflux? Okay? Have some tacos? You have taco burps? I like taco burps. It's like having the taco all over again. Okay? So, anyway, sometimes we send the food backwards from the stomach up into the esophagus. The cardiac sphincter in that case had to at least hiccup or dilate a little bit. Okay? So it opens to let the food go from the stomach up into the esophagus. That's not a problem if it happens once, or even once in a while. But it's a problem if it happens long term, okay? Because the stomach has a very, very thick mucosal lining. This layer out here in the stomach is very thick and has lots of mucus on it. And it's designed to protect you against your digestive juices. The esophagus, on the other hand, just has a little bit of mucus, all right? And it can't handle that highly acidic environment that the stomach can. So if you're regurgitating your stomach contents up into your esophagus, you're mostly unaware of it. You don't know what's going on, okay? But it's slowly but surely irritating the esophageal lining. And over time, that'll actually lead to morphological changes in the esophagus, something called Barrett's esophagus. The esophagus becomes dilated, streaky, and has some morphological changes. And that's a precursor to developing esophageal cancer. Okay? So the biggest danger of leaving GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disease, GERD, untreated is the risk of developing esophageal cancer. Okay? In addition to the fact that you might develop ulcerations. The esophagus, because it doesn't have much of a mucosal lining, can be eroded away. The acid wash from the stomach can actually erode through this mucosa, get down into here. Now you know epithelium is not highly vascularized, right? Nor is it highly innervated, which is why this doesn't hurt and it doesn't bleed when this gets damaged. But if you destroy this, you're into the submucosa. And the submucosa is connective tissue. Connective tissues, perhaps we remember, are highly vascularized and innervated. This bleeds. Okay? So if you get an ulceration through the mucosa and into the submucosa, you're going to have bleeding, esophageal bleeding or gastric bleeding, and massive inflammation, and that could actually rupture. Okay? If that were to rupture, you could bleed out. Blood floods into your stomach, you're vomiting up blood, and you could die from that. Okay? So if you're having GERD, I have this condition a little bit, you can't just ignore it. Okay? You have to make sure you get it treated, try to take care of it. There's lots of things that can cause it. So for instance, eating big meals and then going to sleep, not a good idea. Okay? Very, very common problem for people that work second shift. Okay? They come home late at night, they eat a big meal, and they lay down. Okay? Your digestive processes don't work best if you're laying down. Okay? It's better if you're standing up or sitting up. The other thing about that, guys, is let's go back to that esophageal hiatus. Remember what that is? Okay? That's that little hole in the diaphragm that the esophagus has to pass through. The stomach churns like crazy, goes back and forth, and it's supposed to stay down in the abdomen. Well, it's possible if that esophageal hiatus becomes a little bit enlarged, the stomach will actually crawl through it. Okay? Its peristaltic waves will actually make it grab onto it and crawl up through it like a slinky. Okay? And that wearing out of the esophageal hiatus is called a hiatal hernia. Wearing out of the esophageal hiatus is called a hiatal hernia, or hiatal hernia. And that can lead to an ascended stomach, where the stomach actually crawls up into the thorax. Okay? Aaron's got that?
Yeah.
You currently have it, or?
No.
It's been treated?
No, yeah, it's treated.
Did you have surgery for it, or did they just
Manual manipulation.
Yeah, okay, right. So they didn't go in and put a ligature in there to okay, they just basically said don't eat big meals and go to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. So, so when you were diagnosed with that, do you have chest pain, shortness of breath, that kind of stuff? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what happens when that stomach crawls up into the chest like that, called an ascended stomach, it compresses the heart and it compresses the lungs. And so you get shortness of breath, you get tachycardia. Most people think they're having a heart attack, okay? And then you go into the doctor, you go into the emergency room and they do some assessing. And this is great news. They come back and tell you, well, your stomach's in your chest, but you don't have a heart attack. So, that's good. And then, they'll take the steps to try to, like in his case, fortunately they were able to do it from external manipulation and put it back down. In some extreme cases, they have to go in and surgically pull it back down and then put a little stitch in there to hold it in place. Okay? And again, it's very, very common in people who work second shift because you eat a big meal, you lay down, you digest, and when you're supine like that, it's much easier for the stomach to do that. And again, it's not going to happen one time, so don't be afraid if you ate a Twinkie and laid down that you're going to have this happen. It's usually habitual. It's something if you do it frequently, it becomes an issue.
Could pregnancy cause it?
What's that?
Could pregnancy cause it?
Oh yeah, pregnancy. Yeah, when you're pregnant, everything comes up into your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's all up there. The heart pushes way over here. The stomach's pretty much over here. Yeah, it's all up there. So yes, that's a common cause too. Okay, so now we're pretty much through the stomach. Okay, ready to go to the small intestine. So on your models, find where the stomach connects to the small intestine. Maybe put the stomach back in there so you can, okay. All right. Now the passageway to go from the stomach to the small intestine, as I said in the drawing here, is called the pylorus. You pass through the pyloric sphincter, and now you're into the first part of the small intestine. The small intestine has three parts. The first part is the shortest part, called the duodenum. So the small intestine has three parts. The first part here is the duodenum, and it is approximately 12 inches long. And that is actually what the name duodene means. Duodene means 12. Okay, 12 inches long. Okay. That's your duodenum. Now, if you look at the models, you can actually, at this point, you might want to take the large intestine and small intestine out so you can see the whole duodenum there. Okay. The gray thing is the large intestine, and in the middle of that is a pocket of small intestine. You can pull all of that out. You just pull straight out, which you guys did so expertly earlier. Okay. All right. The duodenum will stay up in the model. Take the gray part up too. Okay. All right. There you go. Now that kind of pinkish curvature up there, that's the duodenum. Okay. And you notice that part of the anterior wall of the duodenum is cut out, so you can see inside. Everybody on the right page there? The inside of the duodenum has these little curves in it like that, right? Those ridges, see those? Okay. Those ridges are called plicae circulars. Circulars. Or the more English version is circular plates. Okay, circular plates, and I don't care which one you call them. Okay. Those are kind of spiraling grooves in the wall of the intestines. Okay, and it's their job to create a vortex action in the small intestines as the food moves through it. How many people have ever seen a cement truck? Ever see a cement truck driving down the road? Okay, and that back barrel is spinning. Okay. If you ever look inside a cement truck, you'll see that there are long flutes. There are these long spiraling ridges inside of that. And the purpose of that is to make the cement turn over and churn. It's actually the same kind of thing as an agitator in a washing machine. If you look in a washing machine, you got those flutes on there. That's to make the stuff spiral. Okay? So this is the point of the plicae circularis, is to make the food spiral as it goes through the small intestines, to mix it, okay? To mix it. And also it creates more surface area. Creates more surface area for absorption. So you can clearly see the plicae circularis on there. Everybody know what those are? All right. The duodenum is the business end of the small intestine. It's where most of the action takes place, even though it's the shortest piece. So in order to to explain that statement, we got to come down here a little bit. We're going to see two little holes on the wall of the duodenum. And they have little mounds, and they're not quite as big as I'm making them in my drawing here. I want you to be able to see them. I think, if I remember right, they're colored red. They have a red opening. A little bit like that on the wall of the duodenum. Okay? Try to find those. You're going to have to get pretty close to see those. There's one a little higher and then one a little lower. Okay? Find them? All right. When you're finding those, I want you to imagine kind of just taking a straight line through the wall of the duodenum and tracing it to those two white ducts that you see on the other side of the duodenal wall. Okay? There are two little white squiggly lines that should be in line with those holes. Okay? So here are the holes. Oh, yeah, here and here. Here are the holes. And then these are the little lines that run down here. Okay? The lines that line up with that are the pancreatic ducts. Okay? Find little there and there, and then here are the ducts. Okay?
Where are the ducts? I'm sorry.
Okay, so here are the holes, right?
Yeah.
Here are the ducts. There. On the model, it looks like it's what, 333 and 332. Your models actually have labels on them. You find those? Yeah, so these are the little holes. And then these are the ducts.
What are the holes?
So there are two little holes there and there. Anybody not find them? You guys good over there?
What are the holes called?
Okay. Oh, I haven't told you yet.
Oh,
Okay, just want to make sure you can find them. Okay. All right. The holes actually are on little nipples or little bumps on the side of the duodenal wall. So a little bump like that is called a papilla. So the upper one is called the minor papilla, and the lower one is called the major papilla. Sometimes it's called the major and minor duodenal papilla. They just put duodenal in there to indicate that it's in the duodenum. Now they are connected to ducts that go through the body of the pancreas. So that thing that you asked me about that was kind of fatty, like fatty tissue, I believe what you were looking at was the pancreas. I'm going to erase my labels there. In here, we have a structure that goes off this way and off that direction. And it looks like it's got all this, it kind of looks like it has almost a paved type appearance to it, the tissue. I'm not going to fill it all in. But if you follow those two papilla, okay, one comes in kind of like this with its duct, the other one takes a little straighter. They eventually fuse into one. And then they have all these little offshoots. It looks like a fishbone in there. Okay. So this green thing back here, that's the pancreas. And the pancreas has a head, a body, and a tail. Head, body, and tail of the pancreas. The tail of the pancreas should wind up being pretty close to the spleen as you go over there to the left. The ductwork that is in there, those are called the pancreatic ducts. The larger one that's right in line with the major papilla is called the major pancreatic duct, or just called the pancreatic duct. This one up above is called the accessory or minor pancreatic duct. Accessory pancreatic duct. And about 20% of people don't have that one. So this is a variation that some people don't have it, other people do. So are you able to find the pancreatic duct on the model? Okay, good. So that's the major one you're pointing to there, Melia, and the one above that is the minor. And then you notice that you go about halfway through the head of the pancreas and they become one duct. They fuse, okay? So if anybody have any trouble finding that, raise your hand. Let me come and make sure you see.